I actually inherited them when I was 3 years old.
Gosh, what an inheritance, yes?
They're lovely, aren't they?
So where did they come from?
They were my grandparents on my mother's side. I know that my grandparents had them in India for most of their working life.
Right.
Then there.
Omar Ramsden and Alwyn Carr formed their London partnership in 1898, working from a Marylebone studio they called St Dunstan's. The pairing lasted 2 decades, through the Edwardian boom and into the silver shortages of the First World War. By 1915, the date hallmarked on this set, Ramsden was already supplying presentation pieces to officers shipping out for France.
Et Alwyn Carr Meave Fakerant. And that, of course, the very famous Ramsden and Carr partnership. Now, they actually were from Sheffield, although these are London pieces.
Right.
We've got Maker's Mark of Omar Ramsden and Alwyn Carr there, but the date in this case is really quite evocative. It's 1915.
Right.
Started right towards the beginning of the First World War. I mean, the decoration, I think, is wonderful for that period.
The Tudor rose and Georgian dragon motifs ran through dozens of Ramsden commissions, matched dressing sets from the arts and crafts moment seldom surface at auction with all 4 pieces intact.
That's wonderful. Had you thought in terms of value?
Not at all.
I think today I would not be surprised to see that selling somewhere between about, say, £6,000 and £8,000.
Really?
Really.
I'm in shock.
Okay, well, don't be too shocked. Now, let's have a look at this jug.
25 years.
Oh, right, so that you've had an interest in the technique in Tunbridge Wear for quite some
yes,
time.
yes.
And I'm sure you know how the whole technique is put together.
Tunbridge ware is among the most laborious decorative wood techniques ever practiced in Britain. Craftsmen glued hundreds of dyed sticks into long bundles, then sliced across the grain, each way for a perfect micro-image of flowers, birds, or geometric pattern. The trade clustered around Tunbridge Wells in Kent from the 1790s through the 1880s. Edmund Nye, whose trade card the owner discovered inside this lid, was the most celebrated maker the technique ever produced.
This looks like a workbox. It could be a teapoy. Let's have a look inside and see what we've got. Oh, look, isn't that wonderful? And in such beautiful condition. It's got the original lining paper, which you can just see around the edge here. This immaculate crinkled velvet in the lining, a surround of Tunbridge ware again, and then all these fittings in here. Everything absolutely immaculate. What do we have in here? Oh look, this is a card for Edmund Nye, inlaid and mosaic wood manufacturer, which is essentially the Tunbridge ware technique, to Her Majesty and the royal family. Now that's rather nice. So this perhaps suggests that the box could have been made by Edmund Nye, a rather smart maker. Now you have obviously looked at that. Have you done any research at all?
We do know that it was probably, there's some odd bits of lettering, letterheads here that suggest that it was made for one of the ladies, perhaps ladies in waiting or something like that.
How interesting. Now, you bought it 25 years ago. What did you pay for it?
I think it might even have been a bit longer than that. But I think they paid something around £150.
Nye exhibited at the 1851 Great Exhibition and held a royal warrant to Queen Victoria, surviving documented work boxes from his Tunbridge Wells workshop number well under 100.
I think now you might be looking at something like 6,000 to 8,000.
Gracious.
This video is brought to you by Velco, the antique identifier app. Snap a photo of any item and Velco gives you an instant identification and a value estimate from its database of millions of antiques and collectibles. Available free on the App Store and Google Play. Now back to the appraisals.
Comes through my family. My grandfather received it. We were told in the family from the Tsar, but of course not directly, I'm sure. My grandfather was a metallurgist, and he was asked by the White Russians to go over and help sort out the guns that weren't firing straight, or I don't know quite what, but they weren't behaving themselves very well.
So when would that have been? About the time of Tsar Nicholas II, do you think?
Yes, it must have been.
When Mikhail Pachin died in 1903, the head workmaster bench at Fabergé St. Petersburg house passed to a young Finn named Henrik Wigström. Wigström spent the next 14 years signing the firm's finest gold and enamel cigarette boxes, including this one, with the small monogram the appraiser will point out. He fled Russia after the revolution and died in Finland in 1923.
Of course, when you look carefully, you see that the background to the blue are all these little individual wavy lines. It's quite a simple piece, really, as far as the construction is concerned. The middle, and you mentioned Russia, well, that's quite right. It's the Catherine the Great ruble.
That's right.
Gold
I was
ruble.
always told it was
You
a
were told
ruble.
that?
Yeah.
Let's look inside it, shall we? First of all, diamonds in this little lip.
That's right.
When I lift up the little lip, inside we have, which I'm really delighted to see more than anything else, is the original cigarette that's been left there.
Yes. Might need it one day.
All right. Now, looking at the marks inside the box, just down here, we see that there is a little stamp of a woman's head in profile called a kokoshnik, the Russian mark.
Oh, right.
The mark on the right of that has got a little tiny monogram, which is the work of a man called Holming.
Right.
Who was a craftsman working for Fabergé.
Yes.
And sure enough, on the right-hand side of that, the Fabergé stamp there. Very nice indeed.
Oh.
What do we like to see on the Antiques Roadshow?
Nice things.
And we like to see Fabergé.
Oh, do you?
So, well, of course, we love Fabergé. Of course we do. With one little teeny caveat.
Yes, I know.
What exactly happened there?
Well, my family didn't keep boxes, so it was only wrapped in a sort of soft cloth covering, and I shoved it into my little safe, which was rather small, a bit hard, and it sort of got knocked.
So, in other words, an absolutely pristine, perfect Fabergé box
I know.
you shove into your safe. So there is a little bit of a defect in one corner, but not absolutely terrifying, because I think these days, with the sophistication of craftsmen and workshops, you could get that repaired, and it should be repaired as well.
Most domestic Fabergé pieces were melted down for bullion during the Bolshevik confiscations. The cigarette cases that survive in collectors' hands today are overwhelmingly the ones that left Russia in the émigrés' luggage. Small, portable, and easy to hide.
No idea.
6,000 to 8,000.
No! I'm amazed. Lovely.
To come to you.
It was given to my husband and me by an aunt about 13 years ago. She wanted to give it to us before she died, which was really rather nice. So we're able to thank her for it.
Lovely. Now,
Louis Comfort Tiffany joined his father Charles S. firm in 1879 and ran its decorative arts division from a Manhattan studio. Every summer he sailed to Europe to buy silver, jewellery, enamelled metalwork, then sold it back through the Tiffany store on Fifth Avenue, where French champleave objects like this casket were a Gilded Age fixture in the wedding list department.
in my view, a French casket decorated with a technique that we call champ levé enamel, which means a raised field, and that the metalwork is cut down, is then flooded with enamel, and it's polished down so that it's flush with the surface. It couldn't be more typically French, the sort of thing he would have brought back in triumph to New York for the New York ladies to fill with jewels. And there it is, lined in the most wonderful satin. And in the front here we see the signature Tiffany & Co. of New York. Well, I think there's little more to say about it than it.
Specialist Tiffany sales still anchor the New York auction calendar 3 times a year. French jewel caskets of this quality and size are scarce enough that, when one does appear, the result almost always lands within 10% of the appraiser's estimate.
It would be going home, and I think possibly that it could go as high as £8,000 to £10,000.
Yes.
On line with what you thought?
Slightly more, but I did realise that it was of considerable value.
Good.
And I'm very pleased.
It weighs a ton.
Yeah.
And points us towards the fact that this is a very grand souvenir.
The Grand Tour was the 18th century gap year, sons of wealthy British families spending 2 or 3 years on the continent, with Rome the obligatory finale. They came back loaded with souvenirs, and the Vatican Mosaic Studio sat at the centre of that trade. Its craftsmen built enamelled glass tesserae no thicker than a grain of rice into hard stone panels, then exported them to be set into gold boxes finished further north.
Prevents us from understanding immediately that this is a rather ravishing gold box. Solid gold. It's marvellous.
Is it really? I didn't know it was gold.
Yes, absolutely. It's actually a very matte gold, and gold is very malleable material. You can push it around and engrave it and texture it. And this is exactly what's happened here. The two marvellous sort of neoclassical griffins, rather fierce-looking chaps with beards, and it's lined with a very smart band of enamel, which is an echo of the band of enamel on the front. What about date? Any thoughts? Any ideas?
I don't know. It was just in... My mother died a few years ago, and it was just in a box in the bank, so I know really nothing about it. What would she have put in it?
It's a snuff box, notionally.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Because it's tiny, isn't it? I mean, it wouldn't fit a cigarette or anything.
No, absolutely not. No, snuff it is, and this is a very, very eloquent and beautiful example from about 1820. Now, having said that it was almost certainly bought in Rome, the great surprise is that it's not made in Rome, it's Swiss.
Oh, really?
Yes. And all they've done is incorporate a mosaic, which does come from Rome.
Geneva was the Swiss centre for these pairings. Goldsmiths there worked to a French neoclassical idiom because Paris remained the taste capital, even for objects bought in Italy.
And because of that, it's really quite a valuable object. And so, goodness, what shall we say?
We're talking here about the 17th century, and this is a time when Holland was obviously a wealthy country. The tulips, of course, the famous tulips until the early 17th century were very expensive items. The tulip bulbs made the Amsterdam traders very rich. Holland was a great seafaring nation at the time, and of course the farming was always very rich, but very, very provincial. I think it's difficult to imagine quite how provincial that would be.
The family were seafarers and merchants, in fact.
Right.
For many generations,
And it probably would have taken quite a lot of money to buy a piece.
Friesland is the Dutch province pressed against the North Sea, holding on to its own language and a tradition of carved oak furniture that runs back to the late medieval period. Wealth came from cattle, herring, and the wool trade with England. A coffer this large was a household statement, the marriage equivalent of building a stone barn.
The hearts, that's very nice indeed. So it may have been perhaps a marriage coffer.
Well, I was told that it was a marriage coffer, and that they had them at the foot of the bed for putting the linen in or something.
So in that case, we assume these are billing doves.
You know, I've never noticed the birds there. No, they are birds, aren't they?
Two amorous birds, two love birds, let's say, for the marriage chest.
And the date, would that be the date of it was made, or the date of the wedding, maybe, or something? Is that 1701 on there?
I think it's 1701. There's something about the cutting. I don't think it's the same hand. If you look really closely,
it's very crude.
Very crude and very, very deep compared with the subtlety of the rest of the carving. So it probably is later. With these provincial pieces in any country, it's very difficult to date within 50 years. So, I could say 1650, it could be 1700. What's anything inside that's interesting?
I don't think particularly interesting, no.
It's fairly original. That's nice.
Is that a candle box at the end, or?
Candle box, yes, traditionally. And a lovely lock. Oh, it's a snap lock. Oh, that's a wonderful period. So that lock is 300 years old or so, and still works.
Should snap shut when you close that.
Let's just try. I think so. Yes. So. Yeah. Yes. So heaven help you if you've taken the key out and you can't open it.
The snap lock mechanism arrived in Friesland from the Hanseatic ports. German and Dutch coffermakers adopted it for travelling chests, where a missing key would otherwise mean a smashed lid.
I think at auction in London, a pre-sale estimate of about £2,000 to £2,500.
Oh, that's nice.
And I think that would probably be bought by a Dutch person or a Dutch dealer over to the Netherlands. I could see it in an Amsterdam shop for probably £5,000.
The Fries Museum in Leeuwarden holds around 40 carved Frisian marriage coffers in its permanent collection. This would be the 41st. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this one, hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next. And there are plenty more incredible appraisals waiting for you on the channel. Go check them out.